Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Scenes, an out-of-frame podcast where we talk about the intersection of art, culture, and big ideas. I'm your host, Sean Malone, the creator of Out of Frame and creative director for the Foundation for Economic Education. With me, as always, is Jennifer Mafasanti, our head writer, and Paul Nelson, editor for the Out of Frame Shorts, and our wonderful social media director. We're going to get into, on this episode, Tenet.
Blom.
I am super excited about this. We're all super excited about this, partly because we all went to movie theaters.
We survived.
And we survived. We
so far.
We did not
not
all die.
We could be the super spreaders, though.
It's true. Things could go horribly wrong from here, but I don't think they will. I'm so excited to talk about that. We're going to get into it in a little bit. Before we get there, I want to get a couple things out of the way. One, there's going to be a pile of spoilers for Tenet. We figure, it's been out a couple weeks. Get to that movie theater and see this movie before
do your duty.
We talk about it. Do your patriotic duty and get out there and do this thing.
And do yourself a favor. This deserves to be watched in a theater.
It does deserve to be watched in a theater. Secondly, we're like, there's no way we can really explain the movie, so I don't know how well we're going to do with plot. We're going to try.
We might have to do it again.
Might have to do it again.
Might have to come at it from the other direction.
Yeah.
Might have to come at it from the other direction. But before we get to Tenet, how are you guys doing?
Doing really well.
Yeah.
Doing really well.
I remember a couple weeks ago you were watching Avatar with the boys.
Yes. I was.
Did you carry on with that? Did you finish?
Yeah, we finished. I felt all the feels. My husband is a lunatic, and every single time the Fire Lord was addressing...
He would say, "My cabbages."
No, the boys were the ones who would blurt out, "My cabbages." But my husband was the one who would turn into, like, the worst kind of YouTuber. Whenever the Fire Lord was addressing the Fire Nation, he'd be like, "What up, Fire Nation? It's your boy." I'm like...
Ring the bell.
I can't believe I married you.
Hit that bell icon. Hit that like button.
Yeah, we finished that. We started Legend of Korra, which we're really loving. I really dig the 1920s kind of diesel punk vibe.
Had you seen that? Have you seen that show?
No, this is my first go through for that one. But what I'm watching for my own pleasure is I started the show Supernatural over from Season 1, Episode 1, and
I've maybe only watched one episode.
There are 15 seasons out already.
Yeah, it's a lot. Wait, it's still going.
Like the 15th season was supposed to be the final season, but then COVID happened, so they couldn't.
We need another 15.
So, obviously, but so they couldn't finish filming and producing the final season. They've finally gotten back to doing that. I think they're wrapping the shooting of the series finale right around now. So that show is finally going to come to a close. But I was really excited to get back and just rewatch that whole series because I am so excited because one of the main characters from Supernatural is played by an actor, Jensen Ackles. And he has been cast as Soldier Boy in Season 3 of The Boys.
The artist?
No. The Captain America ripoff.
Yeah.
Oh, he doesn't crank that?
No, he does not crank that. To my knowledge. I mean, it could be. Like, we'll see where it goes. Yeah. But to my knowledge, no, he does not crank that. But yeah, I love watching Jensen Ackles. And so it's very exciting to me that he's going to be on The Boys.
I am.
Season 2 just dropped. So
super looking forward to watching Season 2 of The Boys. Haven't started that yet. Could probably start it tonight, actually.
Yeah.
Gonna get into it real quick. But you just reminded me of something else, like tragic endings. So I think I mentioned recently that I was watching Ray Donovan. Mm-hmm. Ray Donovan, I didn't realize this. Hey, everybody, this is a big warning about Ray Donovan.
A lot of spoilers today.
This is not even a spoiler. I mean, it's a spoiler it's a meta spoiler. Thing I didn't realize about Ray Donovan that somebody should have warned me about, that I'm going to warn all of you about, it is unceremoniously canceled at the end of season 7. There is no ending to that show.
Wow.
They pulled a Deadwood on it.
It ends at the end of a season that should have probably had a lot of stuff wrapped up in another season. There's a ton of open plot threads. There's a ton of stuff that it's just gone. And I was just like, wait,
what?
what? We're done?
Apparently.
We're done. That's
Maybe
it.
Netflix will buy it.
That's the end. Well, I don't know. So what's crazy is I think it was like one of Showtime's top rated shows.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like it just must have been crazy expensive to shoot or COVID or something. I don't really know. Gone. Just
Some
gone.
kind of drama.
And I guess it's not coming back. Maybe they'll wrap it up in some kind of a movie.
Christmas special.
It's Christmas special. A Ray Donovan Christmas special. Where all the Irish people drink and fight with each other, which is pretty much what that show is. But no, I will say there's another thing that I watched though, which I'm crazy thrilled with. Briscoe County Jr.
Yes.
So Briscoe County Jr. I'm way too old for most of I hope is most of our audience anyway. You should be younger than me anyway. But Briscoe County Jr. is a Bruce Campbell led Western, sort of law and order Western comedy from the early 90s.
Oh, it's so choice too.
And it is wonderful. And I just discovered this on Amazon Prime, so I rewatched like the pilot, and I didn't even really know how to describe it. It's like Maverick a little bit. It's got that vibe to it, like the James Garner version and also the Mel Gibson version kind of merged together. There's like a lot of like cowboy stuff, like riding around on horses. Briscoe County's. By the way, Briscoe County is a human being, not the name of a place. Just to be clear, Briscoe County Jr. is the son of a famed U.S. Marshal who just died, and then his mission is basically to round up his father's killers and bring them to justice. But it's all comedy and funny and kind of weird sci-fi stuff that gets merged into the show. It's super strange vibe for a show, but
man, that show was my jam when I was a kid.
Mine too, and it's a real fun show. Like it's just like happy and funny.
Yeah.
And Bruce Campbell is just at his B movie greatest in this. It's just great. And I had a great time rewatching that pilot. I don't know, because I'm going to get into The Boys. I don't even know if I'm going to continue after the pilot and rewatch the rest of it.
Well, you know what? It'll be there when you're ready to come back to it.
It'll be there when I'm ready.
It's like a warm blanket.
Just like a warm blanket. Dude, I can't even explain. It's like if you had watched all of Xena Warrior Princess.
Wait, what do you mean if?
No, okay. But if you had grown up watching that, and then if you had like, Hercules, Legendary Journeys, and then you just happened to stumble on that just randomly, you'd rewatch it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Same idea, same vibe. Good time.
So big news.
Big news.
Some would say the biggest.
Okay.
All right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
New season of Love Island, USA.
What?
It's a couple weeks in now.
Paul returns with
Yes.
reality TV.
For you guys that don't know, I love reality TV, especially when it's trashy. That is my favorite genre of reality.
The trashiest of realities.
But what's unique about this season of Love Island is that obviously COVID, so it's live now.
Oh.
And instead of doing a remote island somewhere, they took over the rooftop beach club in one of the casinos in downtown Las Vegas, and on the Strip.
Whoa.
And so,
And I guess they're like quarantined their way in, and then now they're just in it.
they're just in it. So now now the love takes over. COVID is on the outside.
Oh my
and yeah, so
That's amazing.
hijinks have ensued, and love triangles and quadrilaterals.
And all manner of geometry involved in this.
Isosceles love triangles.
There's a rhombus in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Acute.
Some kind of a Gordian knot.
Dodecahedron? Are we getting there?
Yeah, so you know what? I'll segue into Tenet from there. I'm going to do it. I'm capable of this, I think.
I believe in you, Sean.
So COVID has screwed up all manner of things. One of which has been
Love Island's a cockroach.
Love Island's a
You
cockroach.
can't kill it.
You can't. It's unkillable. Well, you know what? Christopher Nolan's almost unkillable. I mean, I frankly is unkillable. It just took a little while longer than we thought. And, we were going to do this episode several times.
Yeah.
Like, we literally had it on the block for us to do it.
2 months ago?
Maybe 3 times?
Yeah.
Something like that. And the release date just kept getting pushed. Pushed.
Yeah, and it was nuts. We could not keep up with it, but finally,
it's here.
It's here. And there's 2 things about this for me. One is, like, it's just awesome to be in a theater with, like, any movie.
Yeah.
But this is the movie that you go back to theaters to go see.
Yes.
100%.
Because I went to go see Unhinged because I wanted to be in a theater. A lot of people have gone to movie theaters. In fact, I talked with Reason's Peter Suderman about this on another podcast recently, where he told me, which I didn't realize, Jurassic Park actually there for a minute was the box office winner for a couple weeks there. Jurassic Park, #1 at the box office in 2020. 1993.
Jurassic Park finds a way.
Jurassic Park does find a way. And that's fine, right? Like people were going to theaters to go see stuff like Jurassic Park, or at like my local theater there was, I think, Jurassic Park, Inception, Back to the Future, Black Panther was playing, but I want something new. I want
something new's nice.
Yeah.
Maybe they should do that more often too, though.
I actually do feel like they should do it more often because it's actually super fun. They're like Star Wars, like Empire Strikes Back, stuff like that. That's amazing to me, to go back and revisit like a Star Wars, like original Star Wars.
Yeah, 100%. And like some of like people our age, just never got the chance to see the original trilogy in a movie theater.
Yeah, I was,
and so being able to access that again would be
6 months old when
amazing.
Return of the Jedi came out. I think.
It wasn't like it was before I was born,
but because I'm old. But
I didn't want to be the one to say it.
But. Well, no, I'm not old enough to have seen Star Wars in a theater, though. So there's that. Old enough to see the when the prequels came out, that was my moment, right? This is 1999, 2000, whatever. Right. And so I was like 18. I was like right in that moment, But it's awesome to see those kinds of things, and I'm glad that we're doing that. And I'm glad that maybe that'll continue. I don't know. I mean, I think it'd be cool to give over a theater every so often to bring back something like that. But yeah, I wanted to see something new, and I wanted to see something that was really meant for theaters. I mean, there are a lot of movies that are fun. You can watch them at home. It's fine. Especially now. I mean, everybody has a really great home theater system. Not really a big issue. But something like Tenet, something like Dune coming out. Looking forward to.
Please do not get me started because we will not talk about anything else. I'm
stuff like that.
Beside myself waiting for that movie.
You gotta see in theaters, or at least build yourself a theater. If you can't go, build yourself one. Get a projector, get a 100-inch screen, do something awesome with it.
It's not that I mean,
it's pricey, but like. On the scale of what it ever has been in the past, it's like nothing to be able to do.
It's only getting cheaper.
It's only getting cheaper. See these things. Don't watch them on your phone. Don't watch them on an iPad.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
I like to watch movies on my phone in portrait mode. Is that okay?
No, it's not okay.
We can't be friends anymore, Paul.
You can't. Never again. But Tenet, man. So I saw it last night. You guys saw it a couple days ago. Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to watch Tenet? I saw SpongeBob. Sponge on the Run.
Oh my God. Paul's been talking about Tenet for a year. I feel like a solid
seems
year.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah. So God, I don't even know where to begin on this movie. So I'm just gonna say first impressions, Paul.
First impressions. Well, so being back in the movie theater, I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like walking in, just like finding my seat, being around people I don't know, which is still pretty rare.
Yeah.
But saw it in IMAX, and Christopher Nolan delivered. Was it his best one? Not in my book. But was it really good? Yes. So
I don't think Christopher Nolan's ever made a bad movie.
No.
That's my knowledge.
No. So the scale that I'm grading on is like I've said previously, Dunkirk, the greatest movie of the century. It's not as good as that, but
Fair.
it's still one of the better movies I've
I
seen.
don't think I'm ready to rank it in any context.
I need to see it about 5
Yeah.
more times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need to give it a rewatch or two. I need to let it marinate in there for a while before I could even attempt to rank it with the rest of the Nolan movies. I agree with Paul that it's probably not Nolan's best, but it is hugely entertaining. And I don't know how much of the fact that I finally went back to a movie theater to watch a movie is coloring that.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does a little bit, but my God, it was a good watch. Like, you're not going to be disappointed.
No, not at all. And like I said, I don't know. I need to wrap my brain around it a little bit more for a little bit longer to like really think about how I feel about it in terms of where I might put it if it was even worth ranking in terms of that kind of stuff. But so we paired this movie. So for our patrons, we're going to do a bonus episode on Inception later. And the reason that we paired these was, I feel like, fairly obvious because they're both very cerebral, very strange movies that play with, not only play with time a little bit, but play with just your perception of the world is shifting in different contexts and stuff. If you're not a patron, by the way, please consider supporting the show on Patreon. It's patreon.com/outoframeshow. If you join us on Patreon, then you can, stick around and check out our bonus episodes and participate in those conversations in our movie club and stuff like that. Plus, we have some cool perks and everything else. But getting back to Tenet, though, I think, I'm still really in the process of trying to figure out. I think I got the plot. Like, everybody I talked to was like, oh, my God, I don't understand it, or I don't, it's going to take me a long time. I thought Nolan handled disseminating information throughout the story incredibly well. And I think
he always does.
I think he does this, and we'll talk about this with Inception too. I think he does this really, really masterfully. It might be the single greatest trait he has as a writer and director is the ability to deliver incredibly complex story points in pretty bite-sized, easily understandable, digestible ways. He doesn't always abide by the show don't tell kind of rule. You do get some exposition and you got to sit down and you got to kind of hear some things, but you need it.
Yeah.
And on a movie like this, without some of that, you're going to be completely lost. And I think given that, he handles it as well as any director or writer I've ever seen. And Tenet needs some explanation.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say that I did find the first, third.
Yeah.
Just a bit slow, a bit dull, very exposition heavy. It starts with a really great action sequence.
Heck yeah.
And then it's just it's such a change of tempo.
Yep.
To go from that to let's talk about the notion of time.
There's a lot of mystery. So let's try to get through the plot a little bit. This is going to be really hard, so I'm not really sure if we're going to do this any justice at all. But the movie it has like a mystery element to it where John David Washington's character is just trying to just figure out what is going on and who is behind all this stuff that's happening. So there's a lot of exposition in there where he's kind of going from one place to another, gathering information from different people. But the gist of the story is, and you guys please chime in on this because this is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but the gist of the story is, as Jen said, there is a great action sequence at the beginning. An opera house gets attacked mid-performance. Very tragic instrument destruction happens at the beginning of that movie. It's pretty sad. But then all of the guys put, the terrorists put like bombs around all the seats of everybody in the opera house and all this stuff, and they're going to basically blow the whole thing up. Not really clear what they're going for right away. We're not really led to understand what they want. We eventually find out that there's kind of a MacGuffin. There's like a little metal cube object thing that not quite sure what it is at this stage. But that seems to be what they're looking for, what they want, and they're going to blow up the opera house more or less just to cover their tracks from getting this object. And John David Washington is a CIA operative who is essentially assigned to thwart this terrorist attack. So they have this great action scene, try to collect all the bombs and deal with all of that and get out there. And then, this is not a huge spoiler because it's in the trailer, he gets caught. Yeah. And he gets caught by some Russians and, put on the train tracks and whatever. And you kind of, that's where it goes from there. He takes a suicide pill or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Turns out that's more or less a test that gets him into, I guess, another branch of the CIA, because it still seems like it's inside the CIA.
I mean, presumably.
Yeah.
I guess. But 100% off the books.
Yeah.
Populated entirely by dead people, quote unquote
dead people.
Dead people.
And and so he is now a member of this ultra elite, secret agency that is dealing with a really unique, very interesting threat to the entire world, which is coming from the future. And it's all about objects and people, ultimately, who have managed to have their, they call it their entropy, but essentially the direction that they move through time, is reverse, basically.
Yeah, they call it inversion.
They call it inversion. And so there are, objects that they send back from the past, or their people and whatever, and you're moving backwards through time while everybody else is moving forwards in time. And it creates this really interesting, concept, sort of conception for a movie where you have people simultaneously moving forward or backwards depending on their perspective. And there's a lot of perspective jumping throughout even different cuts inside a given scene. There's scenes where you start moving forward in time and then you cut to another character who's moving backward in time.
But it seems like he's moving forward from his perspective.
Yeah, from everybody's perspective, they're always moving forward like normal. But they're now, so for example, if you get inverted, this happens to John David Washington's character, he is inverted, he steps out into the world, and he is the only entity that is inverted in that moment. And so to him, all the cars are driving backwards, birds are flying backwards, boats are moving backwards, everything is moving backwards to him. But of course, to everybody else, he would be the one moving backwards. So it is this incredibly complex game of perspective shifting. And then especially once we get to the sort of the final battle at the end, where, and this is kind of the big metaphor of the whole thing, is they end up doing what they call a pincer movement from forwards and backwards in time simultaneously. So they have one team attacking from the future and one team attacking from the past, all trying to converge at the same moment, and to do that, I mean, I don't even know how to describe this, without, the visual aspects are so critical to all of this, but you see, bombs exploding in reverse, and
buildings collapsing in
reverse, bullets being fired in reverse, right?
Cars crashing in reverse.
It's all, and it's all happening on top of each other, because it's happening both forwards and backwards at the same time. It's a bonkers movie in that regard.
And it's hard to explain more than that without getting into the nitty-gritty details, which this is not that kind of show.
Yeah.
But as weird and as complicated as it seems to be to explain it out loud, when you're in it,
it works.
It works. It makes very intuitive sense. Like they say when John David Washington's character, we keep calling him that, but it's because he's literally credited as the protagonist. His character does not have a name.
Nobody has a name, really. Andre has a name. That's pretty much it. I mean, Andre and I actually forget his Cat. Yeah. Cat. Andre is Kenneth Branagh's bad guy.
The Russian bad guy.
The Russian bad guy.
Actually, he's an interesting character.
He is a very interesting character.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the protagonist is when he's first really introduced to the concept of these inverted objects and how they are affecting present time as he's experiencing it. He's instructed, don't try to understand it.
Yeah. That is actually a funny part of the movie.
Just feel it.
Yeah. It's really like probably the funniest part of the exposition part of the movie to me is the movie literally tells you, don't worry about it.
Just feel it.
Don't try.
And you know what? That's good advice when you're trying to watch this movie. Don't try to understand it right now. Just let it wash over you.
So I want to get into this in a little bit. Actually, I want to talk about Andre. I want to talk about the bad guy in a second. But I actually want to get into time travel movies. I have a beef with time travel movies in general, and I've always had this beef. And it makes watching time travel movies a little tough for me, which they get into really explicitly in this movie, which they call the grandfather paradox. The idea that, if you go back in time and like kill your own grandfather, then you've created a paradox because then you won't exist. Your grandfather will not have, had your dad, and you will not have been born. And therefore, you would never have been able to go back in time to do that. And so this bothers me a lot in time travel movies. Mm-hmm. The way that people get around it, and again, they talk about this in the movie too, is like a parallel worlds version of things, where you've gone back in time, but now you're broken from the time stream. You've split off a new timeline. Your timeline's still intact. Somebody else, you've created a new one. You've created a branch, right? I don't love that because the logic problem is still there, right? You've still... Yeah, there's all kinds of I don't even think I have time to get into how much that kind of bothers me. But a lot of the movies that do this well are movies that frankly aren't very good. There's a Michael Crichton-based movie called Timeline, which stars Gerard Butler, which does this really, really well.
The book was good, though.
Book is good, but the thing that I love about it is that it weaves together, and this is kind of my biggest beef about it. I think the parallel worlds thing is a cop-out narratively. I think it's a way to go back in time, alter the past, alter the future, do whatever you want to do without paying for the paradox or paying for the logic hole that you created. Whereas if you're a really good writer, which Michael Crichton was, you could find a way of weaving your own story into the past. So Harry Potter does this well, right? So there's the time turner bits in Harry Potter where when you're going through it in the present, so to speak, all of the things happen, like Harry gets hit on the face with a little rock or whatever. And then you find out that it's actually Harry that hit himself in the face with the little rock. So he became a part of his past. He didn't change it. He just became a part of the story that was being told. Timeline does the same thing, where Gerard Butler and crew go back in time and, they make all these changes to the past, and then it turns out that things that were set up at the beginning were actually they're doing, centuries earlier, right? Yeah. This movie handles this kind of beautifully, I think. Because it's all about, and we talked about this, it's all about this theme of what happened, right? Yeah. And so what's amazing about, and I actually don't want to spoil any of this, is how well it's woven in, how well the pieces are laid out, and how well things are set up at the beginning that play out at the end, that there's just all of this great structure that I think I've come to sort of expect with Nolan movies. But it also doesn't violate the paradox aspect of it. Yeah. Which is really cool. Like it doesn't just hand wave over the fact that they're playing with time. So that I found to be probably the most impressive part of that movie.
One of my favorite bits was, the protagonist and his sidekick, Robert Pattinson. Yeah. Who
he's a great sidekick.
First off, let me just pause right here and talk about how happy I am to see the redemption of Robert Pattinson's acting career. I'm just gonna throw that one out there.
That's fair.
We can come back to it later.
He was always good.
Yeah. But I didn't think he was ever going to recover from Twilight.
It's not his fault. Twilight was Twilight.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't think he was going to be able to come back from that. But he seems to have done it. So great job.
And I'm actually looking forward to I'm looking forward to the Batman.
I am too.
Really am.
Should be.
And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw it. Speaking of sort of the Nolan connection, did you see what Christian Bale said about it? This is the coolest thing because, like people get really catty about this stuff. But Christian Bale got asked, hey, what do you think about Robert Pattinson as Batman? Like whatever, and kind of trying to like start something, And Christian Bale's response was basically like, hey man, it's a tough role, like, but you're a fantastic actor. Make it your own. You're going to do great. Basically, and that was like basically his reaction. Like, and he even said, he was like, "Hey, look, when we cast Heath Ledger as Joker, everybody said it was a terrible idea, and look how that turned out. So you got this, man. Like, don't worry about it." So that was cool.
That's sweet.
It was a really nice.
That's really nice to see. Good
It
job.
doesn't have Christopher Nolan though.
It doesn't, but I don't know,
what?
man. It's going to be interesting.
It is going to be
Hasn't been a
interesting.
good Batman movie
I'm looking
outside of
forward to
that.
it. I
Disagree.
I'm also really excited that
It's a good Batman movie outside of it.
It was a.
It's
It's not the worst.
All right, we're going to have to talk about that later.
Sorry.
Back
Tangent.
to Tenet.
Back to Tenet. So one of my favorite arguments, basically, is between the protagonist and sidekick Rob, and he's talking about, like, well, we have to go back and change it. Like the outcome was not what we wanted, so we have to go back and change it. And Rob's like, no, man, you can't.
What happened?
We can go back and make sure that it happens the way that it happened, but we can't change it.
Yeah. And I think that that's the right way to think about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't really believe the parallel part of it. And also, again, I think it's a narrative cop-out. I think it's so much more interesting. It's like a really well-written mystery story, right? Like, with a great mystery, all of the clues are there at the beginning. They're all set up. All of the pieces are in place. And if you were smart enough as a reader, you would put all of those things together. And of course, the bad mystery stories are the ones where you are, as a reader, you're smarter than the writer, and you figured it out 2 minutes in, and you're
or
like,
they just didn't put
or they
the
didn't
correct
put it in
things
there at all, right?
Yeah.
So one of those two will happen, right? You're either smarter than the writer, and all the things they put in were so like sort of forced and obvious that you're like, oh, okay, I got it, whatever, fine, I'm bored now, right? Or they don't put it in, and then it's just Deus Ex Machina, surprise, it's this thing, whatever. No, Nolan's good enough as a writer that the pieces are there. And we caught it. My wife and I caught a few things in there. But the pieces are all laid out well, and it still feels like a surprise for the most part. I think especially what happens with Robert Pattinson, I think, is the biggest part.
Ooh, that ending.
Great.
Is outstanding.
And
I was like, I was not prepared.
Yeah, and I don't think we need to really spoil the ending here, but I will just say, like, the actual ending, like, with big battle and everything else, the big battle is not the important part.
Right.
The important part is what is revealed about the relationship between Pattinson and John David Washington.
Yeah.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Really, really great.
One interesting thought that I had about Christopher Nolan, just in general with his movies, is that he probably makes the most conservative movies that there are that are blockbusters. He's not like a Dinesh D'Souza, that type.
Yeah, right.
Whose movies are actually good. But like going back through his Batman series, it was Dark Knight Rises, came out right when Occupy Wall Street was happening, and pretty much
did not take the
pro
Occupy Wall Street position.
The Dark Knight, pretty much a full-throated endorsement of the Patriot Act, which pros and cons, but like
not awesome. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
But as a mid-2000s conservative,
and to be fair, Lucius Fox, correct.
Yes.
He's correct. His point of view is the right one in this situation.
Right.
Listen, if you're willing to do it for a good reason, you'll do it for a bad reason.
You will.
So maybe just don't do that.
right? And then Tenet basically says, it says what's happened. You cannot change the past. It will kill you. And we're going through a time in our current events in time. We're trying to erase our past. What was ugly then. But we can't. What happened. Yeah. And if we try to erase it, we're just going to end up hurting ourselves.
It is an interesting metaphorical piece of this, and I think you make a compelling point there too. By the way, but I think like the thing that's interesting about that, especially, is that like that is the part that doesn't even make sense about the movie, as far as like, why are people in the future attacking the past? They are, well, so again, they believe that they might be spared from this by some kind of parallel universe thing, but it doesn't even make sense. They won't be spared.
That's kind of,
right?
It makes no sense, kind of like our current time. It makes no sense.
Right. They won't be spared. Like, if anything, they will split off another branch. Their timeline will die, and some other timeline will take its place. Or their timeline will just continue to exist as it exists, right? And then some other timeline will branch off and take its place. They will never, the people who are attacking the past will never experience the benefits of attacking their past. They will only die as a result. So it's a fascinating motive. So, all right, so let's get into Andre's story a little bit. Because Andre's story is basically, he is a Russian national who grew up in what was basically sort of a Chernobyl kind of situation, and was basically, as a kid, he was one of the only guys who would go in and try to extract plutonium and whatever he could salvage from this like highly irradiated area, and then he became very wealthy. Well, in two ways. One, like running a business where he was the only one actually allowed in this irradiated area. So he was one of the only sort of salvage guys doing that kind of stuff. But then he figured out the sort of connection to the future and started benefiting from leaving, the future, some kind of indication of the thing that he wanted or needed or whatever. And the future would sort of send back gold and
right.
Guns and whatever else. So he became part of this mission to eradicate the past. Meanwhile, he's dying himself. So he's got a short time to live. And it becomes this really solipsistic thing of like, and that theme is carried through too, because his relationship with Kat is like really estranged and abusive and terrible. And yet he won't allow her to leave. And so at one point he screams the, sort of classic catchphrase of all horrible abusers, like, if I can't have you, no one can, which is exactly how he views the world at the same time. It's like, not just you, my wife, but also the entire world. If I can't live and thrive, I'm going to murder everybody. And it's fine, because who cares? I'm going to die. So everybody else can die too. It's a really interesting... I don't know how to describe it, because it's like his motivation also doesn't make a lot of sense in that regard. But it's emotional. It's just a guy who's lashing out at sort of an unfair state of affairs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And look, I can see how growing up in Soviet Russia would give you a sort of nihilistic viewpoint on the world. Like, I can appreciate that. But at the same time, like, you got out of that.
Yeah.
And you got to see the potential and the beauty and the wonder that is out there. And you're still like, nah, burn it down.
Yeah, burn it down. I don't know. That part is really interesting. By the way, I got to tell it's just a quick story about all of this anyway. It's like John David Washington is interesting. He's so good in this. And I was telling Paul before we started this, like I watched Ballers, and I saw him on Ballers, and I was just like, man, that guy looks a lot like Denzel, and he sounds a lot like Denzel. And it took me a whole season of Ballers to put it together that he was his son. To me, no joke, the entire season. And I got to the end, and I was like, there's got to be some connection here. I feel this so deeply that he is, and that's my idiocy in play. But I haven't seen Denzel Washington in a movie in a while. Mm-hmm. John David Washington is every bit as good as he ever was. He is phenomenal in this.
He's very, very good. So suave, so charming.
Ooh. Yeah.
Wears a suit like, whoa.
No, I love he goes into a fancy British sort of gentleman's club kind of thing, and
right.
he's in there, and everybody's like sort of looking down on him because he's not whatever. And then I like Michael Caine's like, Brooks Brothers is not going to do. Like, he's going to go impersonate a billionaire, and he's like, Brooks Brothers, like, can I recommend a tailor for you? It's like, I got this, man. But there was a line there too, which I thought was just perfect, and a perfect Christopher Nolan line where John David Washington says, it's the protagonist says, hey, you British people don't have a monopoly on snobbery. And he goes, maybe not a monopoly, but a controlling interest.
That was so good. I loved it so much. And I was like, that is accurate.
Yeah, accurate. It's perfect. Perfect little dig at Britain from a Brit. It's like very, very
so
good.
So good.
But he's great. He's a hell of an action star. I'm looking forward to seeing, because, Ballers, he's done a lot of TV and that kind of stuff. He's been in a couple, kind of smaller movies or whatever. I'm super looking forward to whatever he does next. Speaking of what's next, by the way, they set this thing up easy
Easily.
if we wanted to do more of these.
You could go back, you could go forward.
Do anything. You could really do a nearly endless James Bond level run of however many stories you want to do, because you can do them at any point in time.
Yeah.
You can do them forwards or backwards in time. You can play around with character backstories.
You can introduce new characters whenever.
I know, this leaves you a lot of flexibility. This is an Ian Fleming level, like, open world of spycraft with a cool twist.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be such a power move.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I don't think Nolan
Christopher
would
Nolan.
do it, but I don't think he'll do it, though.
No,
I don't think he'll make a lot of sequels.
We'll see.
He could. He did 3 Batman movies. So it's not like he's opposed to sequels. But he didn't do a sequel to Inception. He didn't do, like, sequel to Memento. Like, you're not...
But those had endings.
It's true.
Yeah.
This was a...
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. We're going to have a lot of adventures, buddy.
Well, that is true. So I will say this is not much of a spoiler, but this is the little Robert Pattinson moment of, like, we had some good times. Like, good times.
Yeah.
We're going to be... Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what they're going to do.
I don't know. But I hope they do. I hope he does make sequels.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much there. Like, that's a really rich vein to mine from.
Yeah.
Like, possibilities are literally endless.
So I want to get into our discussion of Inception for the patrons. Final thoughts on Tenet?
Just go watch it. It's so worth it. It is everything I wanted right now. Like, it is exactly what I needed. And the way that it plays with time, where we ourselves are not even quite sure what day it is anymore. Like, it's perfect for right now.
There's something about movies that are dealing with, like, the confusion of timelines that are
they really
relevant.
Hit home. Yeah.
They're really hitting
really
right now.
Hitting home a little bit. But
yeah, this was another home run by Nolan.
Yeah.
Also, we haven't mentioned he crashed a real 747.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he did.
And sometimes I feel like
holy cow,
he wrote an entire movie around crashing a 747 into a building.
It's probably the greatest line from the trailer, which is like the quietest line from the trailer. It's just Robert Pattinson saying, like, well, nothing's so dramatic, like crashing a plane from the air or whatever. And he's like, well, how big of a plane do we need? Well, that's the dramatic part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's pretty dramatic.
But I think it says something about this movie that we talked about it for as long as we did, and, like, just forgot to mention that they crashed 747 into an airport.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's like...
And that's a hugely important sort of, like, plot beat in the movie. And a lot of things, both forwards and backwards in time, revolve around that moment. By the way, so there are some... Okay, so here are my final thoughts, really. I want to go back and rewatch this a bunch of times.
Oh,
I would love to find the script for this movie. The original script, ideally, if I could get it. Because what I want to know... So in screenwriting, there's a lot of beats that tend to play out in standard screenplays. The major turn for any movie should basically be the midpoint. It should be dead center of the movie. And so, again, Peter Suderman and I were talking about Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is a 206-minute movie where the T-Rex shows up at 103 minutes on the dot. On the dot.
Yep.
So I want to know what happens at the dead center of Tenet, because Tenet is a palindrome of a story. It is meant to be. The title is that. The pincer move is that. The third act is a microcosm of that. It's like a parenthetical version of that. I guarantee you that whatever happens at the dead center of that movie is the dead center of the time shift. And I don't know what it is. And I want to go back and try to look at that. And I'm really curious now to go back and look at the structural stuff, because I know Nolan's a good enough filmmaker and a sort of a smart enough filmmaker to have thought through those beats. And I want to know what he did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need more viewings to do that.
Yes.
I'm going to need a lot more viewings to do that.
100%.
This movie definitely is that's a great movie to rewatch.
This is going to be a lot of rewatching. You're going to see a lot that you didn't see the first time around, for sure. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. All right. On that note, this will be where we end the main show. And if you're not a patron, thanks for watching. We appreciate you guys taking the time to listen and watch the show, or just listen as a podcast. Find us on patreon.com/outoframeshow. If you'd like to check out, support Out of Frame, support behind the scenes, and, check out the bonus content that we have for patrons. But honestly, even if not, please check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. We're all over the place at this point. And honestly, just keep an eye out for the new Out of Frame episodes. We'll see you next time. Thanks.